Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Dig In podcast. I'm Jess Gaedeke, and I'm all hyped up for today's conversation because I really love this brand and I'm really inspired by this leader. Today, I'm joined by Katie Marston, CMO at Once Upon a Farm. We're going to hear a lot about this company and its background, but I love the company description, the next generation childhood nutrition company. It says a lot. So, Katie, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, Jess, I am equally excited to be here today. We have a lot in common. We both love insights and data and really digging into fun topics.
And denim. That's another
And
shared
denim,
love.
we do. That is something we shared earlier today. Denim, denim on denim, just a lot of denim.
I love it. Okay, Katie. So to get us going, I'm just going to throw an impromptu question your way.
Ready.
What's one celebrity where if you met them in real life, you would just like lose your mind, you would fangirl out?
um, I think we've all been watching the Olympics and have been absolutely so inspired by the personal stories that have been highlighted through there. I have to say, Alana Mar, the women's
Good one.
rugby absolute lead, just her message throughout the entire games, following her on social, body positivity, just authentically sharing her story with humor and getting so many more eyes on her sport. Like, she is one that would just be fantastic to meet and just celebrate her success with.
So let's turn it to you for an introduction. Tell us about your background
Yeah.
and your current role at Once Upon a Farm.
Oh, I have to start out by saying I am forever grateful that John Foraker took a chance on a very non-traditional CPG marketer for this role. I actually started at Adidas for 12 years, both internationally, in their Amsterdam office and their headquarters in Germany, as well as stateside in Portland and San Diego, working across all facets of marketing and sales and innovation before switching over to my own company, where I help develop personal brands for athletes, professional athletes, and military veterans to set them up for, their second careers that happen in their 30s for many of them. And I missed brand. I missed being, within a brand and team. And that's where I really caught the bug for smaller to mid-size, high growth, hit some sort of a challenge. I got to work with, Kendra Scott, jewelry company for multiple years, and then my first food and beverage with Brew Doctor Kombucha. And it was a conversation. I was only supposed to help John to find, his next head of marketing. And we got on a call, and he's such an icon. And if you don't know of him, please look him up. There's no one more humble. What he's done at Annie's is incredible.
Mhm.
He's got such great insights on LinkedIn, well worth the follow. But we had the conversation for an hour and a half. And after that, I we did this little dance of like, well, are you interested? And I'm sitting there being like, I mean, would you consider? And I came home and was like, I am very interested in this role that I did not, and it's been the best job, the best mission driven company experience I've ever had.
Yeah, that is so cool. And I don't think I told you this, but I have a really similar story about joining Dig. So the CEO, Paul Gaudette, had reached out and just was networking. He's like, we're looking to hire for this role. It's a new role for the
Yeah.
company, chief revenue officer. You've done that before. Talk to me about what you've seen and what you think works. And we were just having a natural conversation over a number of weeks. And then over time, I'm like, wait, am I like interviewing for this job? Because this job sounds
Yeah.
really cool. And I really like this
Yeah.
company. And it was almost like when you're like, really good friends with someone, and then after a while you're like, wait, are we dating now? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that it's a fun way to enter that relationship though, because you're so yourself, right? You didn't go into that
Oh,
interviewing. You went into it as
no.
a comrade and consulting around, what would make sense for the role.
Completely. I mean, I couldn't have jumped into marriage fast enough to with this
Yeah.
brand for
Yeah.
sure.
So we're gonna kind of dig in here. Our listeners crave inspiration from leaders, and hearing stories, I think, is one of the best ways to inspire. So one of the most exciting recent innovations and launches at Once Upon a Farm were this refrigerated bars product, and among many successes, made quite a splash at Target. So first, kind of give us the pitch of who Once Upon a Farm is and why this innovation is particularly exciting for the market.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we are the next generation organic children's nutrition company, everything from babies to big kids and beyond. What we're known for, and spent the first 7 years of the company really focusing, our organic cold pressed fruit and veggie blends with unique ingredients and natural functionality. And every book you read, right, is focus on the core, focus on the core. And that is how you will grow your business. Don't get distracted. And I wholeheartedly believe in that. You also want to listen to your consumers and know when the right time is to expand outside of that. We both love data. We had done a lot of research. Parents were asking for, they kept asking us for a multitude of products, but bars came up time and time again. And it got to the point where we knew we wanted to launch something outside of our well known pouch. Um, Bars was the likely area, but we knew we had to do it in a once upon a farm way, right? Organic, no non GMO, no preservatives, fruits and veggies, no added sugar, which is near impossible, to find within the
Yeah.
bar aisle, without sacrificing taste. And you've got an older, discerning, consumer end user here that even if it's healthy, like if it doesn't taste good, the parent might buy it once, but the kid's never going to eat it again. So we had this brief and this big opportunity to tackle. And once we decided we were going to do it, we went full fledged into making sure that we made the best bar possible without the handcuffs of a timeline.
Hmm. That's important. So what did that
Yeah,
mean if you didn't have those handcuffs? What did that give you the freedom to do?
it gave us the freedom to make sure that we invested in research at every step of the way, and that includes line trials. As you know, benchtop is definitely different from when you're producing at scale, and that can
Yeah.
change taste. We had a bunch of concepts that we actually took to kids and did a whole project, and some of them were better than others, but this overnight oats bar stood out
Mhm.
for taste, which was great. Like we knew we had taste, and we could have honestly stopped there. And I think there were conversations of, okay, like this is the type of product we're very close that we could launch this. But it was missing when we looked at the competition. It was missing the fun. Like if we
Mhm.
consider ourselves parents ally, what does that mean? That means the kid is choosing us. The parent isn't forcing it on
Mm.
them, and
Mhm.
it still has the nutrients because it has the taste and the playfulness. And so we needed a drizzle. Like I know that sounds so silly, but you look in the bar aisle, like drizzles are fun. It
Sure.
signals
Yeah.
like a little bit of a treat. And how are we going to do this with no added sugar? Like it was a very aspirational goal. Um, and there were times along the way that I think a few of us would have thrown in the towel. And I'll say, Cassandra Curtis and Nicole McNeil, who had a brand for me, and then Cassandra, our chief innovation officer, the magician in the kitchen who started this company, were like, we are not compromising on our guardrails. Like we can
Mhm.
figure this out. We will do this. Like this is what the kid needs. This is what the parent needs. Like this is what our guardrails are. We're not going to compromise. And Cassandra always says, find a way or make one. We really base our company and our founder mentality on that. And to their credit, they did. And I am so, so glad because that was industry defining. It showed our retailers it could be done. It was something that Target absolutely loved. They were our lead, launch partner out of the gates. And I knew it was a win when my own kids, like the difference of a bar without and a bar with, chose the bar with every single time, and came back asking for more.
Yeah. I love that phrase that you used, find a way or make one. I think it was similar to what you said. I love that. It's
Yeah.
so inspiring. And I think that, you talked about the role of data and research as part of this launch as well. Talk more about that. Like where do you, build some of the confidence to make the decisions that you made? Talk more about the role of research within that.
We look at research, everything from trend research in the beginning. Once Upon a Farm spends more and invests more. I don't even like the term spend. Invests more because there's a payout. There's a huge
Mhm.
value at the end, and it definitely, in my mind, makes you faster. Invest more in research than brands I've worked with that are of a larger size. And so everything from what's happening in the marketplace, understanding trends, like refrigerated bars, right? We could have gone, most bars were shelf stable. Freshness mattered to us. We saw the huge growth happening in the refrigerated, bar section. Perfect Snacks, Perfect Bar had been, I have such respect for them. What they went and did is as kind of groundbreaking for the industry. We saw complementary opportunity there. Then it was, how do we work with kids? How do we listen to parents? Okay, now we've, make the bar. That's then internal testing and, on different types of production methods. And then going back out and making sure, including how we talk about it. This was our first step. So I appreciate including, marketing taglines and call outs for the packaging, what matters, where's the preference ranking, the value ranking. So, you've only got so much space. We had less space on the bar packaging than on our pouch packaging. So we
Sure.
had
Yeah.
to think about what was the most important things for us as a brand, but also in that competitive space. And we had to be very selective. And that's where no added sugar for us was such a huge identifier that came through from research that then we knew we needed to put on the packaging.
Yeah.
And I do think, just like, it doesn't stop there from a research perspective. Like, you've launched, that's the hardest part, but there's optimization that can be done to make the most of the hard work that you have already put in. And so that is the follow up. If the repeat isn't as high as you want, if the incrementality isn't as high as you want, how are you digging in to then make the necessary action steps to be even better in future
Mhm.
iterations to meet more consumer and retailer needs?
Yeah. I love that because the journey begins at launch, right? That's actually when
Yes.
when it begins. And so we hear a lot from brand leaders about how those early days, you're kind of losing sleep. Is it going to have the velocity and the turns that we need? And you're laughing because you probably did have some sleepless
Yeah.
nights. So talk to
Oh,
us a little bit about that. Like, what's the pressure like at post launch, and how do you kind of keep that feedback loop, not just with consumer understanding, but also your retailers and keeping those conversations fresh?
we had a great, like, launch event plan, in New York that the team pulled off. Like, there were so many things about this whole launch that I really actually did lose sleep over, because John and I had a great debate and didn't necessarily agree on this product being the right one. The first one, was the opportunity big enough? Um, and I felt like, I joked, I'm like, well, if this doesn't work, like, I'll find a new job. But it it launched, and I think that's where it's the full team effort of everybody giving everything to make this a success. Velocities out of the gates were uh, beyond, and we had high expectations. We're beyond
Oh, yeah.
expectations. For me, it was repeat. So we were hovering between 30 and 35. That meant the consumer was coming back, which was huge when you look across, like, the competition and what's going on. We were right there, at the top, which, said and spoke volumes. The other is, and I hit on this, the incrementality. So we knew we were bringing new consumers into the brand, but the dollar growth incrementality for the category that we brought in was above 40%. So talk about a phenomenal selling story that has allowed, right, our sales team to then take that and go out and say, hey, this is why you want to take a chance on Once Upon a Farm in a new space of your store or a new format.
Yeah. I mean, being in this industry for as long as we have, category growth is the unicorn, right? Like it
Yes.
is
Yes.
so hard to do because not
Yep.
only do you have to do all the things that are involved with traditional innovation, but you also have to educate an entire new group of consumers to go to a different part of the store and consider something that has not been part of their basket historically.
Yep.
It's huge, and 40% is incredible. Is that how you're measuring success of this launch? Like, what is your milestone to say this check the box for our organization?
First and foremost is consumer. We are consumer first. So it was, how is this making a parent's life easier? How happy are the kids? Are they choosing us again? So like that was success. The other is we consider our retail partners the most necessary like friend in changing children's nutrition for the better. And so did we create value for our retailers, and then at the end, like, does this help achieve our umbrella mission? And that, all those boxes, the ones that we've checked, right, that we stood back, and we always do a post-mortem about 16 weeks out from launch. We do smaller check-ins, but then that's where we say, okay, what next? How do we build off
Mhm,
of this? Where do we go from here? And push ourselves for the next step. And I think that's when you look at that and know where the growth has happened now a year later. Um, it's probably going to be one of the more successful launches I've ever been a part of. And I'm
mhm.
really proud of everyone that had a hand in it.
That's awesome. It's so inspiring. So, what is your biggest takeaway from this experience?
Outside of find a way and make one, right? Like
Mhm,
I have three. One is, we've talked about it ad nauseum, this because we both believe in it, but invest in research at multiple points along the process and don't stop. Like launch is just the beginning, as you said, which I absolutely love. Um, if you're a smaller brand, making sure that new innovation is incremental to yourself, to the category, and focus on your brand block first. I
mhm,
think there's obviously so many areas that strong brand, iconic brands can go to, and it does make sense for them, but it's so much harder on yourselves and the team to go to a new buyer or try to make a mark for yourself in a sea of competitor brands that have been there for a really long time. And so make it easier on yourself and grow your brand block, grow your brand block first. And last is understand reaction, but have a lead mentality.
mm,
And that is, you can get lost in data, you can get lost in the present. And the best brands that I've seen that I'm inspired by take risk, that they see the future and they put something out that might be a slower growth out of the gates, but when you look back you're like, they were onto something, and
mhm.
it's now $100 million idea. And that is hard to do. And I think some of the best founders I've worked with, and I look at Cassandra and Jen and John, do just that. They understand the present, but they have a mindset for the future.
That is perhaps the most powerful and well articulated point that I think is going to give a lot of inspiration to the people listening. So, thank you so much for sharing that story, and
Oh yeah.
congratulations on the first of what will be, I'm sure, many successful launches under your watch. So,
Thank
um,
you.
let's turn now to you as a thought leader. So you are certainly a leader within your organization, but also really well thought of in the industry. And when we chatted, Katie, you shared with me a very passionate, but also a vulnerable point about what it means to be uncomfortable in a role and what that can create and lead to. So, can you talk to us about that? What's your point of view there?
Yeah. Eh, we did joke when we were talking, and you hit on it here, how long we've been in the industry. I'm no spring chicken anymore. And I have realized, especially in whether it's a CMO role, marketing role, like I've also got ecom under my purview, how great and how to embrace feeling uncomfortable, because it leads to an element that John loves, which is curiosity. And we live and work every day in an area where what worked yesterday probably won't work today. And there's about 1,000 other things that you should be looking at and exploring, and could be really great for engaging with your consumer or selling your product or achieving your mission. And so I take AI, for example. I was really uncomfortable by AI. It was so big in scope. I didn't know how to make it work. Like, there was so much research to be done, and I can't be an expert on everything. So that's where embracing uncomfortable leads to, in my mind, the greatest growth opportunities. And in our world, like, sat down, everybody within the team has an expertise and a specialty in something. I think they're the best of the best. And it was, put on them. How does your area use AI? Let's try some things. Does it make you more efficient? Does it make us better for the consumer? And some worked, some didn't. And now, we just had a great reporting meeting on Monday, and there were 5 different examples of really efficient, amazing AI uses or partners that have made us better. And as I said, I'm still made uncomfortable by it, but it does make me want to learn more and lean in and get that growth for the team and the company. If I stop feeling uncomfortable, I think it's time to leave my job for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And I think what you shared specifically within the context of AI, a lot of your peers in the industry are feeling that same way. I know that at Dig, we get a lot of questions about how to make sense of it, where to best use it within research process, and we've got some cutting edge thinking on the topic. But it's a place where I think people that embrace that vulnerability are going to see the greatest return from it. And don't act like you know everything to start, because we're all
Oh,
learning every day.
I am the first with the dumbest of questions, and have had to humble myself in so many ways just to get better and to learn. And um, as you mentioned with AI, that was also something that we talked about as a team. Using that example, talk to your partners. Let's talk to our current partners. Who is leaning in and learning or trying to figure out how AI works for them? If they are not, then they are not the right partner for us.
Yep.
Because even if they're not going to do anything with it, the mere fact that it was such a topic and continues to be a topic of conversation, if they weren't exploring it, that means that they don't have that mentality that we look for to be a leading and innovative organization.
Yeah. Find a way or make one, right?
Find a way or make one. Cassandra Curtis.
Yeah, I love it. I need to follow her too. So, Katie, tell me, what's your hot take on the future of the snacking industry?
One that we play in, greatly, and I believe in, and I actually just see across the board, is clean, simple, real ingredients. Like heavy metals is a big topic within, babies and young kids. We're seeing microplastics. I heard about rocket fuel the other day. Um, so I think just going back to clean, real food with natural functionality, gut health, microbiome building, how who knew we'd still be living with COVID, this many years later, it's now part of our norm. Immune support, hydration is another area that I know we're focusing more on for, brain health, overall performance, how that's going to play out. And then sourcing, which goes to the first that I mentioned. I do believe more people are going to pay attention to how they source, where they source, but also the well-being of farm workers, who are the backbone of everything we do. And there's a real opportunity there. We're starting to see it in the research, how it pops up. But the younger generations are so amazing with what they care about. And
Mhm.
it is first and foremost, when I was at Organic Week in DC, up there of to what people really do. They want to know where their food comes from, but also how well taken care of are those that are putting in the work to get us, the for us fresh produce that we use in ingredients. So those are kind of the key areas that I'm keeping an eye on and making sure that we play in.
Yeah, that's so important. And especially, I mean, we're both moms and, it just amplifies the importance of knowing the source and how it got from
Yes.
A to B. It's so important when it's your little one that's ultimately consuming that, right? So that's
Yes.
really important. And I love the note about, the younger generations really caring about how we take care of, these different workforces. And there's a very human aspect that I just love about that.
Yes. They're great. They give me hope for sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go to the final dig. So this is all about
All
you,
right.
Katie, as a consumer, as a person. Feel free to take off your professional hat for a moment if you wish.
Okay.
Although I find a lot of our leaders, there's not a work version and a personal version. You
No.
just are you. So what's the last product or service that you bought on impulse?
I I do always love I'm taken by packaging and snacking, like for
Mhm.
myself, for my kids. So I just bought Mavericks. It's a brand that's caught my eye. I love their packaging. I love kind of their mentality. It's great for my kids are, 8 and 10. I just purchased at Whole Foods their sandwich crackers. And I'm
Mm,
anxious to kind of just see if how my kids like it. It's more on the better for you realm than what has traditionally been out there we grew up with. So yes,
yeah.
it's a fun brand that caught my eye that I threw in my cart.
And now it's all about the repeat, per your point, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I'll tell you what happens after the lunchbox comes home from camp today.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we judge. So what's a category or brand or maybe even a specific product that you could rationalize any price point for? You just have to have it in your life.
Clean and healthy food. Like that is one. I think COVID did that for a lot of people in the pandemic when we were inside. We rationalized and understood the importance of good food. Um, Handbags for me, a
Yeah, yeah.
Goyard handbag from quality design, like I appreciate, and coffee.
Mhm.
I underappreciated good coffee until working with a lot of former Stumptown employees at Brew Doctor who
Mm.
taught me to greatly appreciate all the elements of coffee in general, and I
Yeah.
can rationalize that purchase every morning.
It's hard when you are exposed to that because then you can't go back. Like, you can't go
You
to the
can't go
regular store.
back. You
Yeah.
can't. I mean, I was like, really? I need this type of grinder. And I was proven wrong.
Yeah,
It does make a huge difference. So, yes, I can't go back ever.
yeah. There are worse things to be enamored with, so. Brands have distinct personalities. What's a brand that you would date, and what's a brand that you might marry? And they're not always the same brand. We can be honest about that.
Yeah, they are not. Outside of course, Once Upon a Farm, I would date Poppy.
Mhm. That's a fun one,
I
isn't
think
it?
it's fun, sparkling personality, possibly a little sassy, up for an adventure.
Mhm.
So yes, I would definitely date Poppy, and I would marry Bobby Formula
Oh, yeah.
brand.
Uh-huh.
Um, Trustworthy, outspoken on advocacy, high quality. Like, just there's a lot that of brands I admire. Like, that is definitely a brand that I would, commit to for sure.
Yeah, for the long term. I love it. Those are some
Yes.
good reasons, some good drivers of that choice. Well, Katie, we've picked up on a lot of what keeps you energized and inspired, but I'd love to finish off with what does keep you inspired at work?
You working for a purpose driven, mission driven organization like Once Upon a Farm, where every employee is so inspired every single day to make a difference in the world. For us, it's about changing the industry and providing access to better foods for children and also helping for a healthier, happier, and more equitable planet. And that and the employees that I work with on a daily basis are really what makes my job fun.
That's fantastic to hear, and it's inspiring to hear. Thank you so much for sharing your story and the background of the company. This has really been a valuable conversation. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Jess. You have a great rest of your day.